then, what we also did this year is typically every other year, the chamber pulls, 20,000 out of the CDB for, basically running the CDB. We brought that down to 5,000 this year. Page 3. This is the current P&L for the CDB January 1st to October 1st. As of right now, we've brought in $39,803. Our web design stuff came in quite a bit lower than what I anticipated. Our full website redesign is going to run about $35,000. And so that's quite a bit lower than what we had anticipated. So what we decided to do this year is we added the consumer tracking AI software, which has been an excellent help to seeing exactly where everybody comes from, what you're Wabasha, what you're going after, and all that stuff. So we added that into the expenses for the website for this year. As of right now, travel guide, it doesn't quite show everything on here as of yet. But I do have a travel guide cost analysis, and year to date right now, the travel guide has cost $40,684. The design on it was $7,750. Printing 15,000 copies, so $16,501. Distribution so far has been $8,433. And then additional labor costs, which is billing for the ads, proofing, helping with the design, building content, and organizing production, is about $8,000 in labor costs so far this year. And that's where we're sitting at is $40,684. Cost per travel guide right now is $2.71 per travel guide. 2025, they're actually going to take a huge jump. We're looking at probably about a 15% increase on in the 2025 goals. And then the last page of your guys' packet is basically the balance sheet of where all the CDB money was sitting as of today first.
Where are the revenues for like the sale of the advertising and the guides, Courtney, on here? Is that?
So I dropped those into the general Chamber of Commerce budget.
Okay.
For we show that as an income line item for.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get into that level of detail, but, and I didn't really prepare you, so this is very helpful. It might be helpful if we see the chamber statements at some point, expenses, but we'll see where the conversation takes us later on, if that's follow-up people.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Any questions?
What is your projected cost for the website after this year?
So with the new website and everything, that will start to come down a little bit. So the only thing that we would have to pay for that is updates and maintenance on it.
Yeah. So what do you project for that?
I'd have to look back and see.
What metadata are you capturing about that new website?
Quite a few. Last time I checked, and that was probably in August, we're running about 76,000 visits.
Are you capturing your email address, stuff like that? Or?
Only when we sign up for certain things, and then.
Are you utilizing those?
Absolutely.
With promotional person stuff?
Every month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Courtney?
What do you charge for people to be members of the Chamber of Commerce?
We've got 5 different levels ranging from $100 all the way to 1,000.
Is it just businesses that can be members?
What's that?
Is it just businesses?
No, we've got a social membership, which is like $50.
You
Yep.
So is it accurate to say that, for 2025, you anticipate the 15,000 going towards the chamber budget for events and the things you have listed here?
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Courtney.
Yep.
Good to see you. Mary's here from Wabasha Main Street. Welcome, Mary.
Extra brochure, this would follow through on our programs. Put in our pathway. I gave, Caroline, a small little, Wabasha Main Street by the numbers in the packet. That comes from our readjustments since we have to do quarterly. To capture these numbers down, for public and private investments in the community. And this is just a snapshot for 2023. Wabasha Main Street is a volunteer organization. We're the only volunteer Main Street program in the state of Minnesota. So our staff puts in, which is me, as a coordinator, 600 hours a year, and my volunteers put in about 500 to 600 a year. We put on a handful of events that are in your brochure, but we mainly do grants and sponsorship, beautification efforts in the downtown. So if you reference the brochure here, since 2017, we've done the bike shelter. We've invested in the water fountains. We've done 40 adopted planters downtown, and businessmen fill them up privately now to 10,000 a year. We've done two $35,000 murals. We've done 30,000 orders of artists. I mean, we've done Mayor Christmas tree lighting and brought back Santa downtown. That used to be a lot of showing that years ago. We've done quarterly coffee meetups at the Anderson House for the business community and our sponsors. We've started a bench program, and I see the city's taking that to the next level. I'm proud of the more benches this year. And we do the Shop Small Saturday event, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We work with the chamber on some of these events, Christmas and Shop Small. We work with the National Legal Center, we work with the library, we collaborate with a lot of other organizations in the community. So the capturing Wabasha Street, Main Street by the numbers flyer again here, this little promotion piece. We have written grants and solicited sponsorships for most of our efforts that I just talked about. What I didn't put down there is, in the year of 2023, we assisted with 2018 building rehabs. And then there was a net gain of 10 full-time jobs. What we use for the city's $6,000 a year investment is almost 3,000 a year in dues. We have to pay national dues and Minnesota Main Street dues under the umbrella of Rethos. And then that's like $28.50, and then we're mandated to have an office with an address, so then we pay rents. And that's in the last couple of years, and liability insurance. Another requirement for being accredited on the national and state level is to send staff and volunteers to training annually. And that budget sells around 2,500. So basically, our dues match the cities. Rethos gives us almost the same amount. We take the Rethos money for projects, but we use the city's money and dues for all the other pieces to run the Main Street program. I was looking for a little bit more this year than 6 because I want to have matching funds to continue to have matching grant monies to continue to write grants. We've written about 34 grants for all the projects in the last 5 or 6 years. They're small grants, Blended Money, Smith, WK Foundation, but all the $3,000 and $5,000 other grants add up to these larger projects. And we've already done Main Street Plat program also. There's still more programs we want to do, and look forward to working with you in 2025.
Thanks,
Any
Mary.
questions?
Questions for Mary? Did you want to say something about the Paul Bruin? Because that was so
Oh,
long
yes.
in making. I don't
Oh,
know.
my gosh.
Council,
Yes, there's-
if they heard about that.
Oh, yeah, I actually, Paul Brook Grant is looking upstairs downtown. Rethos got 300,000 for 2 sets of years to give to the 12 communities of the Main Street members. We've had 7 businesses interested in asking for $50,000 each for upstairs. Only one made application seriously because it's a 40-page document with lots of details. And I'm waiting to hear if SBJ got it. It has to jump through some state and federal hoops. And when she meets with them, we'll find that out. So that's, bringing up to code pretty much all of our old buildings upstairs downtown. It's 50,000 and it's, a 10% match. So she would get a $45,000 grant for, and then just invest 5,000 in a $50,000 program. Needless to say, that's a nice chunk, but that's just a tiny snippet of what we will need to do for our upstairs buildings. And, then we have another opportunity to have another couple of businesses make application for the second round of funds. What I did pass on is the facade grant program from Port Authority to my member sponsors. And 7 of them threw an application in 24 hours. They all need more than $5,000 facade. They need 10, 15, 20. So just know that that's out there too. So I piggybacked with the board to do the HVAC promotions too, to just solicit the businesses that really need the city support. So I kind of feel like that's where Main Street is. It's a little bit of the go between city, port, HDC, and wear all the hats. So just continuing to want to do that work.
So in order to get those grants, you have to be a member.
You have to be a Main Street member, and Wabasha Main Street's been actually on all of the websites and promotions for training for the Rethos when they train in the communities. We've been recognized at the state level a couple of times. And we'll be recognized possibly one more time at the state preservation awards. We do, so it's kind of fun, it's rewarding. We all love our community and we do it because we want to take care of all that, so.
Rethos is very fond of Wabasha's name.
They love us, they're
Very effective.
they do.
And they're pleased about the city participation too.
They do, they really look at all the shows, like, why do other communities not do what we do? So because we work with our friends and neighbors. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a quick question on the bicycles downtown. What are the usage statistics? I've been, as soon as they've been, as long as they've been here, I've seen them used once.
We had to have 120 users the first year and the first 3 months, and you would surpass that.
Okay, what about now? I mean, what is it
I haven't
every year?
asked.
I'd love to see the statistics.
Yeah,
on
okay, I
usage.
just pull that up, I can ask my board, because that is, I believe Bill Kay is in charge of all of that, and that's.
It's also partially operated by Tony in the city, so
Right, but I said,
By what?
so Tony could look it up.
They do have usage and graphs and stuff, I can look it up.
Oh, yeah,
let's find out.
yes, we build it, we fix it, and we promote it, and then I write another grant to get a shelter for it, and I haven't asked these numbers because it's being used. They were $10,000 to start, and they've been repaired, and we've invested a lot of our Rethos dollars in it, so once we use that money, we have to find another way to word it to keep putting money on bikes. We've got well over 50,000 invested in those bikes.
But they were fully grant funded.
Yeah, grant funded through Rethos and other grants, but yeah,
Chip Rethos
Rethos
mostly.
kicked it off.
And.
And city and, yeah, the first year, and then after that, we've been maintaining and taking care of it, all the city insurance stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Bill.
Oh, Bill's on the line.
Oh, good.
Hi.
Hello.
You might know those usage statistics. It's been a while.
Do you know the usage numbers? Otherwise we can.
Bill, I don't know if you heard the question that was posed about the bikes. If you have recently looked at those usage statistics. I know we did a while.
I have not, but I receive a notification every time someone does take out a bike. And off the top of my head, I would estimate 3 to 4 a week. I might be a little high on that, but the utilization is there.
Well, we'll have to see what happens now that our streets are nice and new.
Well, right, we're open now, and figure out you're, a little bit of a mess in a couple of years, that's fine. If I can get those numbers, that'd be great. I'm bothering to you're gonna wait for planters and banners, I forgot we did the banners 2 or 3 times, 52 banners this year, but And hopefully comes to so shortly too. So.
Very cool.
Any other questions? Or projects you want us to work on?
We're always, I mean, like Caroline and I, Tony, Mary's always looking for grants. We're constantly throwing each other back and forth ideas how we can assist with the grant application, and Mary always does the same for the city, so we're thankful.
Because we're all blended, like this, we went to the blended meeting and we passed a lot of information between all of us and just keep doing good work. Looking forward to presenter series in 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Oh, I forgot one other thing. I don't like to ask for more. Craig asked me to ask for 8,000, not 6.
And you're working with a smaller Rethos budget this year, right? Is
I'm
that,
working with less than half price of Rethos investment.
so they're dispersing, if I understood kind of Mary's update to me, they're dispersing the money, not in the form of sort of automated funding for Rethos projects. They're making lesser funding to the programs, and then you'll have to compete for,
Against it, and Rethos has got, didn't get the regular funding match to that program.
right?
So we need a couple more, but so we have to, that's what I'll be. Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
All right, so now we would entertain any public comments. We would welcome you to join us at the microphone so we can hear you. Just state your name for the record and where you live and share your comments with council. If you can limit things to about 2 minutes, that'll keep it possible for more than one person to speak. And I'll start with those in the room and then we'll move to anybody online who might want to make comment.
Charlie Klein, live on 611 Page Street, down by Cannon Park. Like the full transparency, what's going on with the park and what they're gonna do with it.
Yeah, do you want to give the update? We just
Sure.
just discussed this in our last council meeting. Directed the staff for further work, so we'll let Caroline address it.
Let me pull up the map. Can I just give me 1 second to pull up the map and I can, is
I can
that the
start.
question for both of you or?
We'll answer that. So it came up in the last council meeting because it had come up in Port Authority that the city was looking to ensure that we don't have any land that could be utilized for housing that is underutilized. An adjacent property to Cannon. Due diligence to look at Cannon Park as well. So that's where I'll let Caroline's.
Yeah, I can't pull it up, but basically where council discussed at the last meeting is we're looking at taking to the Parks Board and possibly Planning Commission, the Milligan Avenue portion of the park for sale for single family home construction. And the last consensus from council from the last meeting was to leave the portion of the park where the cannon is as is, was what I heard, but I'm kind of looking at everybody. So we are hoping to sell a portion of Cannon Park and make a single family lot available for sale for single family or whatever. I think it's zone R2, so it could be a duplex, new construction there. And what we're waiting on was the Parks Board did not have full attendance last time. They didn't have quorum. So that's gonna be on the next Parks Board meeting, a discussion item. I think technically council could probably override Parks Board, so.
But we don't want to do that. If we
Yeah.
have to, we'll let them meet.
Yeah, so they're gonna meet on it, and then in speaking with Mike Flaherty on a piece of land, it may also need to go in front of Planning Commission after parks, so. I was gonna, on the last agenda, we had a map showing the parcels. So I was just gonna try to pull that up while we're talking, but it's, I don't know, do you have anything to add, Brian, about the parcel or?
No, I can come by and show you, Charlie, if you want. Swing by sometime this week, you guys home?
Yeah, the truck was there, I'll be there.
Alright, I'll swing by sometime
Okay.
and just show you what's going on. So they're talking about the part next to Grant Chute,
Oh, straight north of Grand Chute.
right? Right, that's what would be for the single family.
So they'd have a Milligan.
So the cannon part would be untouched.
Are they ever gonna put picnic tables back into that park so people can actually use it?
That's a,
That's a good question to bring up now,
Parks
because
question, I
when
think.
Park discusses it, that can be posed to them.
I mean, there used to be picnic tables there where people could use them.
Right.
They took them all out, they've never been replaced.
Yeah, and that's kind of how this Cannon Park, looking at I didn't actually realize that other parcel was actually park. I misunderstood that. So the part that we think of as Cannon Park with the trees and the cannon. It was identified in our park plan as underutilized. My point was, well, you can't utilize it unless you just want to sit under the cannon. There's nothing, we aren't giving anybody anything to do in that park. So aside from, it's beautiful, that there's shade trees and so, it's sort of like the park plan saying that it's underutilized doesn't mean that we can't make it utilized. So I think it's good,
So,
good timing to have that.
oh, really, I lost my connection. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna see if I can get. Can't connect to the network. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it would, if there were a home there, it would have a Milligan Avenue address and access, rather than coming out onto the busy common road. Anyone online wish to make public comment? I'm sorry, I can't see the Zoom right now, so if you would like to make comment, just unmute yourself and go ahead and state your name and where you live and share any comments with council.
This is Brenda Pearson, 136 Bridge Avenue. I
Hi,
want to
Brenda.
do a huge, hello. I want to do a huge shout out to Lori Strombeck and all her amazing volunteers over the past years for the wonderful Septoberfest decorations. We're going to sadly miss her if the rumor I hear is true of her not coming back, as well as the fantastic volunteers. And on that note, being a board member of Wide Spot and a former board member of River Junction's Art Council, we really, both of those really do need full-on community support to continue their activities, whether it be the live music in the park, Wide Spot's music venue in the winter, into the early spring. And so we're going to be sending out applications to please help support us. So keep that in mind. Any amount is worthy, or they won't be able to stay here. And Wide Spot just moved here 2 years ago. And last but not least, VN Schuth from Iron Bridge Art and Clay and myself are going to lead the German parade this year at 2 p.m. when all the festivities under the bridge end. We'll line up and do a little parade route and end at Hoppy Girl Brewing with complimentary ice cream for all participants. So hopefully we'll have some fun new people just to show support of our heritage and Septoberfest. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. You stole a little bit of my mayor's presentation, but it means just as much coming from you. We really do appreciate all the Septoberfest volunteers and certainly Lori's leadership.
And then just to walk back to our prior discussion, up on the screen for those are here in person, this is the parcel we're talking about, parcel A. If you can see that. So Milligan, Hiawatha, and then down here is what would remain as park as of right now. Okay. Right.
Anyone else online care to make public comment? And then the room.
I was just curious about that water line issue.
It's not moving forward.
It's not moving forward?
Yeah, we have not heard from those property owners, so.
Just curious.
All right. Hearing nothing further, changes or additions to the agenda. I added something that got on, there's gonna be a mayoral proclamation to declare Disability Month. That'll come later, but that's on our agenda. Anything further from staff or council? All right. My presentation is short. I too wanted to say thank you, and it's been a beautiful season. Hopefully we'll get a lot more good weather so we can, people can still enjoy the wonderful streets. I've heard so many compliments from the community, just repeatedly about not only the big major street construction, but also the smaller street projects, the mill and overlay, and that those are wrapping up. It's just, people are very appreciative and glad it's done, but really genuinely thrilled with the outcomes. It's been a fun homecoming. Joe's got royalty in his house now, so that's probably fun. Because we have a lot to discuss, I won't share any further. Any other committee reports or Wabasha good news?
We missed the first, so we meet next Wednesday.
That's right, yeah. So no utilities this month or this week. From Port Authority, I don't know if anybody took notes on, Jeff is there, yeah. Sorry, put on the spot. Tyler, Jeff, Caroline, any highlights?
Oh,
Sorry, I forgot.
we're gonna talk about the decision related to the budget. That was pretty major. And then we approved the final environmental statement for the barge terminal project. That's been filed with the state. So next steps are filing for permits. So I don't have a date on when we will file. We have not filed yet. I'll keep working on that. So.
Sounds good.
Do you want to talk about what we decided in the budget or not?
Yeah, I hit it
You
through
did
the budget.
later. Okay.
Yeah, and then the facade program is launched, up to $2,500 for people that want to make exterior improvements.
Did it say 25 for everybody or is it?
In 5,000
For
historical
buildings
buildings.
that are
Yeah,
1950 or older.
yeah.
All right, sounds good. No park, any streets updates, Tom?
No streets.
Okay. Ryan, anything from ambulance?
We had 86 calls in September, we're at 683 for the year, we're up 149. Total calls over September of 23, up 59. 911 calls, same time, we're 17 calls short to reach our total number of calls that we had last year, and we're only through September. I applied for a $50,000 grant to go towards the ambulance to help bring that down. That was just submitted over the weekend, so I don't know what the timeline of getting back to us for that is. I did go in on a radio grant with Lake City Fire Department, Ambulance Police Department, Mazeppa Fire Department, Zumbro Falls Fire Department, for a radio grant to replace our radios, but our grant was turned down. They only had $4 million in total funding that they could give out, and they received $23 million in requests. So ours is one of the bigger ones because we have everybody wanting to replace all the radios. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have for
Good. I don't know if anybody from EMS wants to share anything about the reception center. I can't think of the word, the training, the big training, anything.
Good evening, everyone. We did hold our reception center drill last Wednesday and it went really good. There's always bugs to work out between radio communication and how many people you have at each station, but it went really good. We all had reviews at the end. There's monitors there that kind of sit and watch what everybody does. And they said that pretty much out of 13 of them that they've done, we've topped the list. So that was kind of nice to hear. We gave everybody a pat on the back and went really good. So
Awesome.
kind of beefs up, why we get the 25,000 or 28,000 every year for the grant to use for equipment. So we're covered.
Good, super.
Do you want me to give an update on the Downtown Street project?
Well, sure, yeah, because everybody's dying to know,
Yeah.
Gonna be on tomorrow, is it gonna be on tomorrow, is it gonna be on tomorrow?
So pavement went down the first lift last week. Everybody pretty much knows that. And then, so now what they have to do, they have like 76 manhole lids, castings and water shutoffs and anything else that's buried in the street. They have to raise that up. And so when the paver comes through with the final lift, everything will be all done. They don't have to dig anything up but otherwise, if you do it the other way, then we got squares cut. And it's a lot cleaner, it's better for water protection, for freeze thaw cracks and all that stuff. So water and dirt and sod is being running this week and next week. Trees are coming, bushes are coming for the clock between this week and next week. And then September or October 14th, the paving crew is supposed to be here. So that'll be Monday, the 14th. Everything goes right. So And then the mill and overlay, that's all done except for the dirt and seed. So that's pretty quick. We got a crack filling crew coming in to do $30,000 worth of work. On some little sections of street, kind of like your street down the hill, Franklin and.
Yeah.
Different odd parts around town, they're gonna wrap that up, so yeah, well, it'd be nice to get all this done and somewhat back to normal.
Yeah.
Then the blizzard will come.
Are you gonna do Washington? That deal?
So next year, if that $2 million project works out, yeah, but that would be curb and gutter, water and sewer, the whole works.
All of them.
Yeah, and just that section was like 950,000. So then the other money would go towards more mineral overlays of some of the bad streets around town. We're working towards that for next year.
Thank you, Tony, and your whole team. And then,
We didn't meet in September. Next meeting is next Tuesday.
anyone else have any things? Sure, yeah.
Okay, the city received the workforce housing grant towards the downtown apartments. So it's gonna be a $12 million investment in Wabasha's downtown area and housing. I'll be coordinating with the developer on the transfer of the property likely in March of next year and under construction next year. Working on final agreements, and I did receive the outcome of another grant to cover some demolition costs. So we got $166,000 towards the demolition of the building. We have a press release that will go to the Wabasha Daily Herald, hopefully tomorrow, and then we'll post something on our website, because I know a lot of people were watching that project and want to know the outcome of the grant. With the help of Bolton and Mank, we submitted a $250,000 grant to upgrade our lift station at Lawrence Boulevard. And it's just gonna help us when the flood comes, having a generator, allowing staff to get in there. We did want to use those grant funds to prevent the system from overloading with floodwaters, and that at the end of the day was not eligible under that grant, which was kind of disappointing. That's what we had originally hoped, but we still applied. And I have nothing else to add other than Emily and I attended a reception. The National Eagle Center has a new executive director, Ed Minima, and we look forward to partnering with him and working with the Eagle Center.
And I think it was his first day today.
Yes.
Great, thanks, Caroline. All right, and on our consent agenda, we have a category A disposal of flood debris, the September 3rd regular city council minutes, the October warrants, and the CAP number 12 for the 2023 street project. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I so move.
Tim, second?
I'll say.
Second, Jean. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, under general business, we have one bid for the old athletic field equipment. Only a nice report from staff. Anything you want to share?
It was pretty self-explanatory, except the warming house. I think that we would all want to get rid of the equipment without it costing us any money, so I think that part's really good, but I don't know about the warming house, if we're ready to tear into that yet. If you take the roof off, there's toilets and things inside, but it's not wood, it's all block, concrete block. But, you know, there's doors that you could salvage out of the entrance doors are fairly new. So I'm kind of wondering if we wanna possibly accept everything else on that and leave that out and have discussion on it. What the future of that building is, can't move it, obviously, because it's blocked, but, you know, where are we gonna come up with funds to tear down the old bleachers, which are concrete, and the warming house and the disposal. So,
Right.
that's kind of my only hang up on.
It seems
You guys
like
got ideas, I mean, well, I guess-
eligible costs if we move the highway project forward, if people are willing to wait that long. It seems like you could just include that in site prep, but I could ask Brian Mall. Question is if everyone's okay waiting
I
for
just
that.
leave it for now.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I don't think John will still be
Use it for
interested in it.
storage, right? For during the summer when we know it's not flooding or nothing.
Yeah, I know. Every time I put something in it floods, so, but no, we could probably, yeah, it's not too big of a garage, but We could probably, Chambers looking for storage.
Yeah.
How do you like that review?
About 20's office down there.
And I was just thinking, you just want to keep the roof on, so you're not dealing with a building that's taking on debris and water and just,
Yeah. You know, we had it clean this time, we didn't have to, but FEMA paid for it, but it's like, you know, it's a lot of work and.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know how long, you know, if this project's gonna be 5 years, you know, do we tear it down, but if it's gonna be next year, the year after, maybe we don't.
Gonna be 2027. So, yeah.
Okay.
Nothing else is going on there, so there's no reason just to leave it.
Okay. So basically accept John Weir's proposal of tearing down the light towers and removing them. And the skateboard ramp, which we don't have to dispose of. And what was the other?
Control panel.
Yeah.
That control panel should go with the lighting because it controls all the lights and the conduit, the wiring, so. Yeah,
The rest of the skate stuff's being repurposed, right?
yeah.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
Oh, very good.
I think I heard it at the same time, Jeff, you're my good.
Second.
Second, Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign, thanks, Tony. All right, park board member qualification discussion, so I'm not sure if you've done any research with the league or anything on this, or we just need to start from the.
Unfortunately, I did not, I guess that could have been a start, but yeah.
So right now, it says that a member of the park board must be a qualified resident of the city, and we don't know what that really means. Is it a person who lives in town? Is it a person who has property here? Do they have to be a full-time resident? Can they be considered a resident of the city if they own a commercial property or rental units? So I guess I've thought about this in the past as it relates to recruiting people, and I've thought that if you have a residence here, I don't know that we encourage people who aren't full-time residents to be on the book commission just because we want them to be physically present for meetings, and that has become a problem for the park board when people are wintering elsewhere. So it's been more of a pragmatic, like full-time, full-time residents, meaning you can be here for meetings, has been the harder thing.
Yes,
We
we had 7 members and we couldn't make that, so we dropped it to 5, probably 7 years ago.
And I can remember that because I know HBC has 7, so.
Yeah, now we're kind of running into this, and everybody's busy, again, we get it, but, trying to broaden the scope a little bit, okay, do we just stick to residents, or if somebody owns a VRBO in town and pay taxes, would they be able to help decide about parks, or a business owner that owns a couple houses? I'm just looking at ideas.
So right now, we have a current member that we know that is a business owner, but wasn't aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have a second applicant on file that owns a business here. Doesn't live, so without those 2, we're down 2, and we didn't meet quorum last month.
Some of the other commissions have, you can be, like, for instance, Port Authority, you can have 1 member of the townships or two members of the townships. No.
I'd say if you pay your taxes, good.
Okay,
You pay
yeah,
your taxes
the only
in
reason I
town.
say that is, again, if you have a VRBO here and you live here and can attend meetings, great. If you have a VRBO here and you don't live here and you're not being part of meetings, we don't want that,
Do you think part of the problem is the afternoon meetings, maybe if you had meetings later today, like if you did a 5:30 meeting, people would have less excuses to. Some people work for a living.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Might be a way to fix this.
The current park board, I mean, the working people there are just busy. I think I don't think it's an issue of timing, but for Michael Anderson, I don't think it's that.
Well,
By you,
it's
Darren.
after working hours, it makes.
That's not under his working hours, because he's a farmer, so. And they do paddle it in the evenings, so that he'd probably be off at that point. MG makes it during lunch or makes that her lunch, so it doesn't seem like that's the issue.
No,
It seems more that you just don't have enough people who are gonna commit.
Yeah.
And we have to
If
expand
we're-
the definition of what that looks like.
If we're allowing anyone that pays taxes to pays proper taxes in the city of Wabasha and can regularly attend meetings, I think we'll have it full board again.
How
So,
will that affect memberships in other commissions though? If we change this policy.
Yeah, that's my
If we say
question.
qualified residents, is that gonna mean, I guess they can run for city council then, right?
Well, I don't think we define, I think we change the language. We wouldn't say that's how we define it, right? We wouldn't say, by that we mean taxpayers. Because a person who rents is a qualified resident in my mind, and they should be eligible on a board as well.
Yeah, you wouldn't change the definition of the term, you would
No.
change it to the park board.
Just add it, yeah.
If you pay city taxes, whether it's business or residential,
But then a renter doesn't pay city taxes directly, so you're excluding them.
well,
Yeah, I would not
wouldn't-
be excluded. I mean, that's the trick, is it's just, you're looking for people who are physically gonna be here and attend, and
I think we can think about it, craft some language,
Yeah,
and then just decide on it, just put some thought into
But
it.
is it gonna be consistent across every commission? So is utility gonna have the same qualifications as planning as park?
doesn't need to. Yeah, I mean, they can all
Why
have,
wouldn't it be?
because it has no legal reason to need to. It's more about how does the group function?
well, city council is totally different than the board,
Right.
and, there's different things about the boards and commissions that are, I know what you're saying,
Yeah.
I mean. Let's take a look at it, and make sure we don't,
I don't think it's a slippery slope legally. I think that's the purpose of defining who's a qualified.
I'm not really arguing the legality. I'm arguing that there's certain, if you own a VRBO and you live in Chicago and you have 5 parcels, should you have a say in everything in planning?
Well, remember,
Versus,
we get to decide, so
I understand.
I wouldn't accept someone who doesn't live here, because I don't think they're gonna be a participating member of that commission, we always get to make that.
Yeah, we
selection.
appoint them,
I understand that,
they
but
get vetted, and so we can also say no.
Could you go also, would it be okay to go to 3 members of park board? Is that too low?
I mean, that's a,
I don't know, that would be kind of different, I guess, but,
As long as you can fill your quorum though, I mean, if you leave it at 5 and you're down a member and you have a quorum, then
that's
it's
what we
the
kind of.
same effect.
3's not very functional, because if you have 2 and one says yes and one says no, you get nowhere, yeah,
When we went from 7 to 5, we're like, all right, if something gets too big for us, we'll do a subcommittee,
sure,
and then they can come back to the park board, which like the athletic.
Yeah.
Field we did stuff, so, and then that'll give us some time, like, to check with some other surrounding towns and the league and see if. Something else comes up that we're not looking at.
right.
do you have a council member that attends park board?
Dean has been on it many times,
Yeah, I don't.
and yeah, if any member of council wants to apply, that would help, because I
I
think,
think we just maybe got a volunteer.
is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Glad to accept your application.
The other thing I talked to Lisa about is re-advertising the vacancy.
Mhm.
So we have not re-advertised the vacancy in a while. But. Yeah, there's 2 applications. Oh, there are already? Okay,
There
that
are.
says there are 2 applications. Are they
They're not.
qualified residents?
One is,
This
one
one
isn't,
isn't. Okay,
and they have one on the board that's not, so,
Okay.
it was and now it isn't.
yeah.
All right.
Well, I hear that sort of the impetus is that, yes, the tax paying thing is meaningful. I don't really worry that somebody who doesn't live here would want to be on the park board, because they do need to commit to being there, and. Again, if we had any questions about that, we'd ask them, and that would be a consideration when we are asked to appoint them.
We'll do some research,
Okay,
we'll table it.
yeah, I was
And
curious
then we can
too,
just present you the current applications and plus Jean and maybe
yeah,
just change it for the future.
they'll be on our next agenda. Sounds good. Now our budget update.
Okay, so, we set the preliminary levy. I must have gotten this wrong because the number went up, not down, but not sure. It says 278 and now we're at 2799. Let me double check that, but let's just pull up the sheet here. So. Yeah, we're at 2779, not 279. 2779. We're at 9.2. We didn't go down too much. We adjusted the IT, adjusted the dental rates. We had a discussion at the last Port Authority meeting about funding the chamber in Main Street this year. They said they're willing to fund chamber in Main Street next year. I know there was some discussion from both of you, on reducing or eliminating the chamber due to their receipt of the lodging tax. I looked at a Main Street reduction of 6,000, and that would just impact the levy about, not at all, it would still stay at 9%, you know, just because you'd be talking about like a decimal point cut, 0.1. The budget would lower the levy about 0.6%. You wanted some discussion about cutting out the Eagles Basin Playground out of the CIP. I've reduced that request to 25,000 pending outcome of the grants. I'm hoping to get it mostly funded, 75 to 80, 90% funded. So I'm requesting that a final decision come in on that once I get grant notifications and donations. Or get feedback on that. Ryan and I had a discussion about the additional staff. That could be made into just a part-time position or cut. You know, essentially the director is continuing to request for the additional full-time position. And he can explain that more if you want more information on the additional staff position and the impact on revenues. Just that the additional position we hope will continue to make an impact on ambulance revenues and is part of that hospital partnership that we have. And so, you know, other than the items I listed above, which are minor, I haven't been able to identify any further cuts that just don't look at how are we organized? Are we cutting hours? I mean, because so much of our budget is just personnel. I know, Jeff, you had asked about health insurance. We still don't know those numbers there. And Tyler's at a conference. Do you want to share some information that you got? I asked Tyler to research at a finance conference if there's best practices identified at a state level of how other cities are reducing their levy. So he's going to share that information.
Yeah, there was basically no magic formula for reducing levies. Grants and aid as much as possible, keeping reminding the state how important the LGA and other aids are, because they're not keeping up with inflation, so that's put a lot of burden on cities, especially small cities. One thing I learned that I found interesting, in 2024, the average preliminary levy in the state was 9.1%, and the average final levy was 8.4%, so pretty much the same range we're looking at, so we're not out of the ordinary here, and that's what I found talking to local cities as well, so everybody's kind of in the same ballpark here.
Do we even need to discuss Chamber and Main Street if Port is gonna fund them and we're not raising?
In 2026,
Yeah.
they're gonna take them on.
So
in
they
2026.
said, so big picture speaking, and this is part of, I've got my financial advisor hat for them. They're gonna have kind of like $4 million in capital outlays next year. And I mean, this isn't gonna really impact it, but we're just still trying to operationalize it. So it was a little bit for that, but again, taking it back, you know. Yeah.
But the spirit of it was that, yes, that they see that support coming from Port in the future as we.
So 2025 is when they're building the port and they have $4 million in capital expenses, and about, as of right now, we're still trying to figure out what their portion is.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to balance when is funding coming in and when do we need cash. And then in 2026, they've committed to funding them. So in 2 years.
Okay, I didn't read carefully enough about the years.
Yes, yeah.
I thought it would just be a non-issue because.
Yeah, too bad, but it's 1 year, so. I'm glad that it's moving that direction. I think that's where it belongs, and I think, you know, those contributions that the Chamber and Main Street make are critical. You know, just because I was looking at the handout as I sat down, because I couldn't open the Main Street one, for instance, when until I got here. You know, it's a $6,000 investment from the city, and we get $14,000 in grants and $17,000 in donations, membership, and adopted planner contributions. But without that program, none of that private investment happens. So it's just, to me, it'd be crazy not to do that. So as long as there's a future for both of those, I'd like to see them fully funded this year.
I'm I'm on the other side of it. I wanna cut. And like Tyler said, we're running out of things to cut. There is nowhere to cut. So I'd be in favor of just taking the year off and then Port can resume next year.
Our Main Street function, it'll cease to exist. They can't function without our six. They really can't.
They can't go to the Wabasha Foundation.
They already do.
Well, they can ask for more, right?
They can, that's not typically the size of funding that the foundation gives, but I mean, they can. It's just that they function, they really do things that people, I think, kind of lean on the city to do. This whole beautification thing came out of Tony saying, hey, I'm willing to go back to these planters because the community really wants them. And we started small and then Mary was able to grow it into something that is primarily funded out of the pockets of our businesses, which is amazing. Otherwise, they were expecting it to be something that we would take on, so, and they do a great job of it. So those.
Let's not forget how much they saved us on the benches was.
Oh, yeah.
Project
They
downtown,
more than paid for
they paid
themselves.
for that.
They more than paid for themselves.
I don't think it's insignificant at all, but
And it doesn't nudge our levy. There'd be nothing appreciable if we do that, except that our.
We can't never cut small things. We'll never be able to cut big things. That's
Well,
just the-
oftentimes it's the big things that are the harder decision to make, but they actually have impact, whereas this is gonna, it won't. What are you going with? Not even a percentage change.
Program
Yeah.
that,
Well, they want 8 now.
okay, but $8,000 program, whatever it is,
It's in the budget for 6, but.
that pays out twice as much to the community. Doesn't make sense to me.
So I'm in favor of the Main Street, keeping that, partly because it also
I keep it
coincides, that I would agree with, but it helps with the Preservation Commission and other things, all right? But the chamber, I still think some of the stuff they do is antiquated.
Well,
You're spending 15,000 on brochures and stuff like that.
40,000.
Well, whatever, it's just, I think the stuff needs to be, why are we social media more and this and that? I'm happy that the port's gonna take over in 2026, because it belongs to that side of things. Main Street, I think we should keep at 6. I'm a little debatable about chamber.
I'd like to see chamber cut to 5,000 and encourage them to drop that travel guide at $40,000 expense. I don't think that's useful.
We'd be an outlier in a community with this much tourism to not have a visitor's guide, I can tell you that, as somebody who visits a lot of regional cities, and they're smaller than us, so. Yeah, I'm not saying it should all come from our budget, I just think that it's not an antiquated mode, I mean, and they're not doing social media, I know as a member, there's lots of social media done by the chamber. For businesses that either don't have the time or expertise or choose not to do that, they're leveraging their own social media skill set to make their members have benefits, so. And the members pay for that benefit. So to me, it's just, we're just keeping them alive in this year, and we're very lucky to have a port that has that attitude and wants to take it on in the future, it's good, but I would keep them both there.
So, I don't know that we have consensus, but, does anyone?
I'm also just a little nervous about, thinking that we're gonna get this down, always thinking we're somehow gonna get this levy down to something that feels really good, like 4 or 5%. That just is not the guidance our financial advisors have given us. They're saying it's 7 or more probably, or you're gonna end up with these periods where you really have disinvested in things. It's hard for me to say how we have a fully built out neighborhood that has a planned playground in it, and we say, yeah, well, sorry, not you guys. I mean, they're totally outside of the access. I think it's like 25-minute walk in with a stroller. So, there's a need for these things that are in our budget. And we have an arbitrary, seems like there's a kind of a split sense of what this arbitrary number is that we're gonna feel comfortable with. And if we always want to cut, which I think it's always appropriate to look for things that can be cut, we will start cutting what people think of as essential services. I mean, that's to me a playground, and I think we're gonna get that grant and it'll diminish the total, but I don't see that taken out either. I don't know how that doesn't speak.
even if we get the grant, all the money's already being collected in taxes. If we levy for it, the money's collected and get the grant, well, maybe we're not spending it, but we're still collecting it.
Well, regardless, we wanna keep that CIP contribution high, cause you see when it goes into the negative, and I was just talking about Darren about what's our plan for future replacements, and what what we talked about on the phone is we'd leave that number alone. It's shit, we gotta, but it'll, you know, if you wanna take the 25,000 and make it 0, then we got an extra 25,000 for the future to put towards a truck or a piece of equipment, but. Yeah,
There's always CIP needs to be worked down,
but you are correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
because we won't hear about that practically.
no,
Yeah, and I mean, in looking for cuts. You know, the only meaningful cut is people. And that's exactly what I'm trying to avoid is. Are we gonna get to the point where it's people and not services?
Well, we don't have to, but we can, I think we can accept what we view, and again, it's arbitrary, as a reasonable levy that covers the services, people are the services that the city enjoys, you know, it's, again, we've gone low some years, and this is exactly what Mike Wabasha has warned, then you're gonna end up to cover your basic services and the things that you plan, you're gonna end up having these unnecessary spikes, and then people get mad. So if we be consistent and not try to be as low as humanly possible, and just scraping the bottom of the pan, we wouldn't have this 9.1, we would have probably been closer to 7, which is what should have had as a goal instead of a 3 or 4. So I think that's hard to swallow, but I think if we understand we're doing that in a planful way, and we're not just trying to get to the smallest number, and it's never gonna be 0, then what I'm concerned too is that our private, for our employees, healthcare contributions are gonna show a 14 or 15% increase, and you
we
estimated
budgeted 11.
11. So we could also see a hike in that before this conversation is over. I just think people should prepare for that possibility. I hope it's not true, but that's what we're being advised.
I don't think we can sustain 9% year after year.
I don't want to be
after year
9%
after
either,
year.
but 6 and 7 might have been, you know, we might have been making a dent on some of this stuff.
And we always do comparisons of like a $200,000 house, well, it's only going up $200 a year, your taxes, well, there aren't many houses that are only worth 200,000 anymore, and
Mhm.
there are a lot of people who can't keep sustaining $200 bumps every single year. And especially at the age that the people are in our community, so.
I never get that feedback, actually. I get feedback that the
I get that feedback.
explanation of services is really helpful and that people never thought about it that way. And they actually can't believe the value of police, for instance, and they didn't know it was that low. And yes, when it all together and it's a 3, digit number, none of us like to pay bills like that, but again, take into consideration the services that we're providing. So that's my soapbox, but I don't have anything else I want you to see cut. Does anybody else have any substantive suggestions or really wanna ask for any of these things to not be in the next version that we look at?
I mean, really, we should just go with the majority, if the majority wants it in, leave it in, if the majority wants it out, leave it out, so.
Yeah,
That's what I'd say, and we're gonna vote on it that way anyway, so.
okay.
We don't have to.
We don't.
Vote, we're gonna just do a consensus, can't we?
Well, I also think we can mull on it if you want, we don't have to have a decision on it.
Sure, that's
I
fine.
mean, I don't think we need to do it tonight, but
So, is basically on the table still Chamber and Main Street or just Chamber, or I heard from you, Tim, it was Chamber potentially.
well, I think chamber potentially, my opinion would be, I would like to keep Main Street until 2026 so we get some support, but I need to think about chamber a little bit more. I have my reservations of what they do with it, but I'll think about it and we can talk about it next month.
I'd like to see chamber cut to 5,000. And I could suffer from the Main Street, keep it 6K.
I don't think we need exact numbers.
No,
We're just making this.
Just kind of giving our positions.
hopefully by next month, November 1st, we should know about health insurance. And I guess I got a request from. I would say staff are very strongly against not seeing increases to the premiums, but is that something you want me to show you? This is the levy impact, or keep that off the table? Cause I heard that from you, Jeff, and I just
Do
wanted
you
to
have any
check in.
feedback from your colleagues, administrative colleagues about how the policies are? I don't like that being a discussion every year. It feels very, just doesn't, it feels devaluing. If we want to have a policy, then let's figure out what our policy is, that would either cover 50% no matter what the increase is or something like that. Rather than stick her down because we don't like the number.
Different things, a lot of, it was different, but I did check in with people. I can again and present that, but I'd almost like to look at that. I think when I was trying to, cities that kept a certain percentage, it just didn't work with the way we're doing healthcare with 6 different plans and. So,
I thought we had already kind of agreed to absorb the increases,
well, I think so, okay.
unless it's dramatically different from what.
What we had presented is if it's 11%, it was not gonna make up a big difference to do increases on 11%, just kind of how it shook out.
I think an email update on the actuals is sufficient.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. All right, anything further?
And just one final comment, at any time, I'm willing to look at the hard stuff and give you suggestions, but that's gonna be hard conversations. Oh, that's not what I'm hearing from this group. Caroline, do some research on reorging or cutting people or cutting hours, so that's kind of where I saw it. Cutting services, service levels, et cetera. I didn't hear that from the group, so next month we'll just kind of bring back these same discussion items. Did anyone have more questions for Ryan at all? Okay.
Thanks. All right, now another good discussion. So we could give some direction to staff or which departments and services we think are worth investigating in a joint facility. So Jeff and I were able to sit through the Brunton, just us, or were you there too, Dean? Jeff and I were there. Anyway, Brunton came and started to kind of ask good questions, including location. We had a good, healthy conversation about location, and so that might be a good place to start. Is there any other location? Would they tell us that they needed 2 acres?
Yes.
Yeah.
So a 2-acre site, I think ideally that we have control over, because otherwise we're gonna end up with land costs as a part of the project. Ryan, we talked about how closer to this, CJC, would that be amenable? And Ryan's attitude was he'd rather not be that sort of off the highway, if I recall. So we couldn't think of anything besides mosquito field and or the old athletic field, kind of any part of that. And I personally gave a perspective that I'm absolutely willing to flex on it based on the concept that we developed in the Greater Minnesota Futures. I've always envisioned housing prioritizing toward that Allegheny side because that sort of maintains the neighborhood rather than having housing over here and then some city services. But I can think more broadly if others have other ideas. So when we talked to Brent, we said, some of or all of that Allegheny side would be prioritized for housing or mixed use. And any part of the other, we think is fair game. We'll have to do, water management. And then I think, what did we say about, was mosquito field even big enough?
They were gonna look at that.
Okay. They're looking at that. So any other ideas about site location that you haven't considered?
I got some suggestions about existing parks, but I think parks are always challenging because they do have a current use of, River Park or Markwood Park, and
are those even suitable locations?
They seem to be, Markwood Park's in the middle of more residential area, and then River Park, I think, talking to Wendy, that is more mixed area over there. That's not on the floodplain. It's a little farther west.
Feels very hidden for our major city services to be tucked away in a neighborhood, and they don't make sense to me. So even if they were just land available, that those spaces don't make sense to me.
Okay.
All right. So we've got all of our sites identified, and Brunton is aware of all of them. Okay. So what departments should be included in the joint study? How did they tee up? I can't remember when you gave us the proposal, Ryan. How did they tee up how they could bubble diagram any departments, any or all departments? How did they what are they committed to? Do you know?
So they're committed to, the ambulance, city hall, and then to show where police is. And Darren, this is kind of you, like, I know you and Tony talked, and I know, you know, had conversations about what your expansion, if that will suffice for years to come, and that's kind of where we got off track, because initially we were gonna have space for the fire department, but then we didn't know if that was going to suit you, but then, you know, thinking long term, where are we going, you know, is that going to suffice for 50 years, 60 years? So at least plan for space if police doesn't come right away or the fire department doesn't come away, but at least have some form of a plan of what we might want. So I guess it's more of a, what does the council think the priorities are, and what does the council want to see within that?
Yeah, and there's, what departments are you including in the study?
In
And
the
then-
study of the
In
joint
the study,
building.
generally, and there's what comes of the study and what departments
Yeah.
ultimately end up, so, you
Yeah.
know, I don't have a position at this point on what department should be in a joint building until we have the study. John shared his feedback that he wants all services considered, he thinks that's the long game, you know, sort of best value, most forward thinking. I don't know if anybody else has a strong opinion.
I do.
Yeah, Dean.
All
Anybody else?
I would say you look at all, there's no reason why you couldn't, now I would build it where you move two over right away and then module or however you wanna tuck them, the rest of you in. And then have a plan to say, hey, 20 years from now, you are moving, you don't have to say it. So we have a plan,
Plan.
cause right now it's just, well, I don't know, we might do it, we might not, and blah, 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 so. I would love to see if we don't move everything over, city hall, ambulance, and then, all right, police in 5 years and fire in 15.
Does anybody disagree with that, that the plan includes all departments, even if that's not the short term?
Otherwise, we're just gonna
And
have
I think
another
I got
study
the
to look at.
impression that they suggested it's easier for them to go expansive and then shrink versus add something we forgot later. They can't do that. So. Darren, I think that reflects, I had a conversation with Darren this morning, not knowing if he could attend, and I think he more or less agreed with that it could be a plan, but he feels comfortable and they have plans to improve their existing facility. Yeah.
And when you did that planning exercise and worked with the architect, what was the lifespan of your current building? Did
Well,
they talk-
realistically, it should be 30 plus out.
Okay,
You know, another building's only supposed to be 20 years old, and that's almost 40 years old, so, yeah, I mean, I'm looking long term with that, that's why my thing with, if you set the land aside, so you can build it in the future, when that time comes, then it can be moved or you can do that, but right now, I think, you know, cost wise, it'd be okay to leave us out for, you know, for this planning project and make sure we got the land there to do it when the time comes. So,
well, and I think what I'm hearing is we wouldn't exclude you in the planning, even though we would address, or we would identify it to Brunton as we are not anticipating moving all departments at once, we would want to have the ability to have all departments at some point.
Right, I mean, my idea is never to move the police where they're at right now is perfect for everybody, but we're at the mercy of the county every election, so. Yeah, I just think we should plan it that way and then look at what we move forward.
That's good. Then do you want to talk about the financing?
Yeah,
Just thanks, Ryan and
Um,
Darren.
just kind of to keep this in the back of your mind, we're not there yet. But we just recircled back with Mike Rubani, and there'll be two options. If we get to, okay, we're ready to finance, and a general obligation capital improvement bond would require a public hearing and a 30-day petition, which if there's a petition created with 5% of the votes cast in the last election, then the entire project would go to general referendum. Option B would be a bond through the Port Authority, does not require a referendum, but would have higher borrowing costs. So on streets and even the park project, we're not used to doing referendums, as is the school. So I just kind of, as we plan, also want to keep that in mind about what this body thinks versus, okay, what would the community support, or would enough people be against something to, you know, do a petition, so.
Any questions about that or comments? Pick it up when I get there.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. You have what you need from us? And the next
Yes,
meeting is
right.
coming up, right?
Right, Ryan.
Monday,
Okay,
Monday at 10, is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, maybe let Caroline know if you wanna be there so that we don't have a quorum. I'm happy to be there, and I'm also happy to not be there if somebody else wants to, because I got it on the first meeting, so I'm sure there's many iterations to go.
Yes, 10 o'clock
10 o'clock
on
Monday.
Monday.
All right. Okay.
these last two
Yeah.
just came in last minute, so that's why they're there, but they would have been otherwise on.
Thanks, Darren. So this one is, describe the. This is just, we just need to.
We.
Sorry, I haven't seen this one.
Yes, sorry, no one did, so. I had to put that on, I think this morning, this is the official resolution to require additional funds from a PFA loan. So this in concept was already approved by council, but this is the documentation. So it's a change order of $279,375, and it was addressed to address an issue of having 2-inch diameter water services in the downtown area.
Okay, so do we have a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Thanks, Dean, second.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. We still do a roll vote in 3/4.
I think we're gonna.
Okay. Pose same sign. Thank you. All right, and then this proclamation I just learned about today, this is very nice. Peg Gadke informed me that, they would like a mayoral proclamation, heard by council to dedicate Disability Employment Month in Wabasha. And there's some, I think, I don't want to spill the beans if it's not news yet, but one of our local employers received a really nice recognition. I'm guessing that will get some publicity soon. So I'll read the proclamation. Mayoral proclamation to establish Disability Month in Wabasha. Approximately 20% of Minnesotans live with one or more disabilities. And whereas employment and enrichment programs are invaluable contributors to quality of life, and whereas people with disabilities across Minnesota gain independence, purpose, and community when they're included in the workforce. And whereas hiring and retaining employees of all abilities strengthens diversity, fosters inclusion, and adds creative energy to the state's workforce. Each October, government, nonprofit, and business organizations across the country celebrate National Disability Awareness Month to highlight the contributions of America's workers with disabilities, past and present, and showcase supportive, inclusive employment policies and practices that benefit employers and employees. Now, therefore, I, Emily Duran, Mayor of Wabasha, do hereby proclaim October as Disability Employment Month in Wabasha. So we thank the DAC for doing advocacy on that. It was a nice thing to get and add to our October meeting. Otherwise, we would have had to proclaim it in November, which I don't think was in line with their celebration. And now we have a resolution for the donations. Does anybody want to read the donations?
Yep, I'll do it.
Thanks, Tim.
For the library, $500 from John Sue Hampy, $150 from Pat and Phil Carls, and $250 from Eugene Klein. Athletic Field Complex, $10,000 from Jim Constantine through SMIF, $3,000 from Chad and Ally Springer, and $1,000 from Pember Companies Inc. Thank you.
We have do we have a motion to approve the wonderful donation? Thanks, I saw Jeff, second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Anything further? Otherwise,
I had one note, I
Absolutely, yeah.
completely forgot, I'll make this really quick, this was supposed to be in the budget. I had brought up looking into summer rec program
Oh, yeah.
budgets,
Right.
and so I did talk
Sorry,
to.
guys.
No, I totally forgot. I talked to FYBA and just some good information. So that organization actually spent $4,000 to move the field 2 fence up to our athletic field. Since they started, which 10 years ago, maybe, they paid for $90,000 in improvements at the athletic field. In their own budget. And then they're also gonna plan on paying for more improvements and more stuff at this field. So,
I mean, they were just out there doing.
yeah, enlarging the field, yeah. So the budget's there, you know, they need us and we're getting so much in return. So I just wanted to look at that and I'm glad I did, because that's super good information.
November, when we said.
Right, so also they have a meeting next week, they're gonna work on similar
Okay.
response to it, so.
Yeah, and they're brand new, so
Yeah.
there's not gonna be much.
They haven't-
So next
But they're gonna-
November meeting.
Oh, we have a different date,
Yeah.
okay, so different date for November, not the first Tuesday. Do you, we have it set, the next meeting?
You need to go for the meeting.
Okay, so, I did not think about that, as you mentioned it. So.
We're hoping for the sixth.
Okay, working on the sixth. Anybody have a conflict with the sixth? That's Wednesday,
It's hard to work meeting night.
fire department meeting there, what time is that?
They're usually at 6:30.
I do have a conflict, but I can change it if everybody else is good on the sixth.
Otherwise, the 12th, I believe, is that the Tuesday, the next Tuesday?
Which we have planning commission, maybe.
Are we? We don't have much, do we?
We will this month, I don't know about next month.
I guess I would plan it. We can
Plan it.
always, yeah, I don't,
And then move planning if you have to.
well, planning, that's, yeah, I think we have to move planning into move planning.
All right,
I wouldn't anticipate we have anything, but you never know.
okay, so Tuesday the 12th at our regular time. Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you for remembering that. All right, and then motion to adjourn. Thanks, Jean. Second? All second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Caroline, just noticed that your microphone was too far away. They couldn't hear you talking, so for next time.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Hard to laptop, it might be one, yes.
It's easy to forget.
Turning off Zoom. Done.